Um, let's get started. Welcome everybody to the August 17th Identifying Security Threats Working Group meeting. I will be your host. If there's anybody, Dan, I'm not sure if you attended one of these before. If so, you're welcome to introduce yourself. I think everybody else.
Yeah, I haven't attended before. I'm new to. I mean, I've been aware of the organization for a while. I'm new. I'm a new person at Sneak, leading open source and open standards strategy.
Nice.
So you're going to see me, I think, a bit on these work streams. And right now, I'm just kind of like attending as many as I can. I don't know if I'm going to be a regular participant in everything. I'm probably not, because I only have so many hours in the day. But I'm just kind of like trying to absorb enough about what's going on across the OpenSSF. Yeah.
Terrific. Welcome. Is there anybody else that hasn't attended and would like to introduce themselves?
It's been a while since I attended this one. Normally, because the time is kind of.
Oh, sorry, your audio is super low, or my speakers are dead.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I said that it's been a while since I attended one of these, but I do attend quite a bit of things. But yeah.
Okay.
Amir knows me from some of the other stuff. I think Christine does too.
Hey, Randall.
Hey guys.
Cool. And we have Craig's iPhone. Hi, Craig. Okay, awesome. So I guess the first thing I wanted to do is just there's a doodle poll. If you haven't filled out the doodle poll, please try to do that today. It'll take you 2 minutes, maybe 3. This is to find a Europe/APAC EMEA friendly time to do one of these. So I'm thinking it will probably be late evening Pacific time or late evening Pacific time. Either way, we'll switch on and off. So we'll continue this meeting slot once a month, and the other slot would be this other time. So if you won't be able, it's not a popularity contest for the voting for the time. It's like what you could actually attend. So if you can't attend any of them, just don't mark any of them, and I'll just try to find the best time that most folks would be able to attend, and do it there. If it turns out that there's only 1 or 2 people that could do those, we'll reevaluate and think, because we don't want to lose momentum on the stuff that we do by only being able to effectively meet once a month. So that is that. So I have one new topic. I want to make sure there's a bunch of time for for project updates. But if there's anything else that you folks would like to talk about, feel free to add that to the agenda, and we can do that. We can make sure we get to everything. We'll just talk fast. So without further ado, let me see if I can share. I think that's just gonna work. It's a slideshow. Nice. Okay, so this is a proposal. This is not set in stone. This is not like this is like basically the first time that anybody's seeing this. So I'd love to get your open your thoughts and critiques, and tell me this is terrible, tell me this is great, whatever you feel. Purpose of what I'm going to describe is basically I want to pitch putting together an open source, essentially a monitoring and alerting system for the open source ecosystem outside of any particular ecosystem. So this isn't just Python or just NPM or just anything else. It would be monitoring the system as a whole, and it would allow us to get an early signal when let's say malware, backdoors, other kind of just bad things are starting to happen. Now, I'm sure that these things exist already out there by Sonotype and Sneak, and we have one that my team uses, which is actually the implementation that I'm proposing. We just donate, but I'm not aware of anything that's kind of out in the open or owned by OpenSSF or a similar org. I could be wrong there, in which case I'd like to learn. From the results of this thing once it's built is alert saying, hey, we see a malicious package has been detected, it's in this package, do you want to investigate it, do you want to report it, do you want to ask the ecosystem to just block it or delete it or whatever. And it would allow a team of, let's say, incident responders to get access to this data and do interesting things with it. And feel free to stop me anytime if you have questions. So I called it assimilation because it seemed like a fun name. It is essentially a SIM. I'm not even sure that incident and event management are the right. Is that those are actually that's the acronym that SIM stands for, but we'll fix that if it's wrong. But it's aimed at identifying anomalies, backdoor, like anything bad within the open source ecosystem, and it turns it into alerts. So this is an example of one that this was already deleted, but the npm package, hey there, the description clearly says that it's a security research thing, like don't install it. So the way that this would actually work at a super high level is you've got the whole open source ecosystem out there. You've got event processors that listen for things. So like a new package is published, or in theory, you could go down to the repo level and a commit is made. Those things are dumped and minimally processed into some sort of a structured log. Queries are run against that log. Potential incidents are created, and depending on the confidence and other quality, I guess, of that result, we'd either automate a response, meaning send a note right back to npm or PyPy or RubyGems or whoever, or have a human in the loop, and the human would be this kind of incident responder persona. The implementation is not super interesting, but right now it's just serverless stuff. So we use the library's IO API. When a new package is published, we pull out some metadata, do a couple queries, and then dump the stuff into this log. We watch things like so it's not just open source packages. So imagine like when you install Rust, like the official way to install Rust is to do like curl rust up pipe sh. That's interesting. That's kind of not an awesome pattern, but it's prevalent. So we had the idea of let's just watch these URLs to see if when they change. Particularly the CodeCov incident from, was it last year or the year before? Sometime in the past, like 2 years, the CodeCov incident where the popular curl bashing script got compromised. That was where this idea kind of came from, of just watching them. And there aren't too many. There's like a couple hundred, and they don't change super often. And then we could do other things like actually, install the package in a detonation chamber and watch system calls and dump those. They're intended to be lightweight. Most of the logic, should be in the within the query, so we can change it after the fact. The structured logs are really it's a log and there's a property bag with like other things. So it's something. It's not awesome, but it's something. We use Azure Sentinel to do the monitoring. Other things are possible, but it does have some nice integrations. So we can kick off automated response from there. So the two scenarios that I could think of was, one where folks from OpenSSF, so incident responders, folks that are incident responders in their day job for their organizations who are part of OpenSSF, take on, a role to respond to these things. What we don't want to do, and I don't think we can do, is make the whole thing public, because these are almost by definition 0 days. So these folks would be responsible for receiving the alerts that aren't automated, taking appropriate action, and kind of an engineer to make the automation more magical over time. Importantly, though, anybody that would be doing this with their OpenSSF hat on, and by NDA, not sharing the data with their employer. I think that's kind of a non-negotiable, because we are not a 0-day trading club, and we can't use our position in OpenSSF to benefit our organizations with inside knowledge. Second scenario, which might actually just be simpler, is just to hire folks. I think we could probably do this with contractor work for the first 6 months, to be that incident responder and be the engineer to do this. In that case, there's no question of like sharing 0 days and things like that. And we just kind of try it for 6 months and see. So kind of minimal cost. See if this thing has legs. And maybe there's something that I'm not thinking about. So the next steps what I was planning is actually, talking to this working group, talking to the OSS CERT work stream, because this does feel like an incident response thing. Get this in front of TAC. If this is something that there's kind of broad agreement that this is something we should experiment with, then put together a small team to drive this stuff forward. We have a hackathon at Microsoft. We have a hackathon on the September 19th. So I'm planning on putting some cycles into this either way for then. We also have OpenSSF Day the week before. So I don't know if that timeline might just be too aggressive to do anything with, but I want to get this out and see what you guys thought. So that is my deck. Sorry, I mute the whole time.
I thought it was a great presentation, Michael.
Thank you.
One concern that I do have is that you do seem very Azure based, which I know is not a problem for me, but I know that certain people in OpenSSF have, there's that whole vendor agnostic part to it. So I think that might be something that might have to be thought of down the line if it's going to be an OpenSSF project. So
totally agree. The actual logic to do this stuff is, so the functions themselves are .NET, so you could run them, you could do them anywhere. The queries are like just readable, so to port those over to something else is super uninteresting. Like there's nothing so tied to Azure that I would feel like if someone said, hey, you need to make this work on AWS too, say, okay, we put what we have to. But yeah, no, totally. The only other reason why Azure is probably the easier path is because OpenSSF already has Azure credit. I think we have 50 grand in Azure credits. So it's slightly easier. It's just code. It should work anywhere. There's no, it's not a big service like bound thing.
Let me also say this though, that I know that a lot of organizations or groups have issues with .NET as well. I know at Gen 2, every time .NET comes up, it becomes a holy war.
I get it. Well, so I just heard .NET 6 is in 2204.
I believe so. I believe so.
That's pretty cool. But yeah, I totally get it.
So
yeah. Yep. And in fact, I would say that like maybe 90% or 95% of the value of this is just the rules that we've built up over a couple of years of doing this. The rules being like, these are interesting patterns to look for. So.
And you can put me down for the team and for the hackathon. I'd be down to put.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah, no,
I'll send you my email here through the chat. Amir knows
Perfect.
that I like to do weird stuff. I'm doing some weird stuff for our other working group with GitHub and getting creative.
Awesome. Love it. Love it.
So
Initial
you-
feedback. I like
Okay.
the idea as well. I know that there are some very similar efforts that I think are currently being developed. I think one is potentially, I think through, I can't remember which organization it was. It was either Google or AWS that I think they were talking about kind of basically setting up a red team basically to go out and make some of these fixes and stuff. So if there's any parallels there. And then it seems like hiring is really difficult, especially in the security space. You know, it's very in-demand skills and there aren't a ton of people who have them. So I would maybe bake in a little bit of time for, you know, if there is going to be hiring, just to go through that process and to find the right person.
Yeah. I mean, if we can get agreement to just, put, I don't know, a tenth of a person from, pick 3 or 4 organizations that are already incident responders and, have all that can just, be that triage eye. That might be the easiest path to getting something.
I have a question. First time caller, long time fan. JC Hertz from Ion Channel. And we do a lot of software supply chain assurance in the federal space and critical infrastructure. And so I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around the concept of operations. Is it that there's kind of an enhanced, skillful, sort of tooling plus people to identify threats, and then these are remediated kind of on the package manager level or wherever they live, kind of quietly? Is that's the idea?
Yeah. So the vast majority. So maybe I should draw a distinction. We're not looking for Log4j style vulnerabilities. We would be looking for, and there were a bunch from PyPy in the news, I think it was last week. Either a compromised package or a new package that started out malicious, and that's all it ever was, but it's got a tricky name, or it has this, or it's linked, or somehow this, it's doing a bad thing. So a lot of those can just be kind of evaporated out of the ecosystem because no one was using them anyway to begin with. And there's no, like, it's not like you have to reset the author's account, like the author themselves was the threat. So the ecosystems are pretty good at kind of making those go away. They just have to know about them, obviously. The ones where it's a normal maintainer whose account gets compromised and then a new package gets published with bad stuff in it, that's probably a slightly different workflow where it's a combination of the ecosystem of, package
Right.
maintainer.
So it's kind of bad stuff that gets discovered and then, eliminated from the pool. I guess my question then is, what is the mechanism for the publication of the fact that that has happened? Because there are a lot of people who now have deployed capabilities containing those things that should know that those risks exist in their infrastructure.
Yes. So that's a good question. I don't have a great answer because I don't think the ecosystem does that today. To be frank, like when we report these types of things to ecosystems, the packages disappear, and I've almost never seen a report out. Sometimes NPM will do like a security holding package, but a lot of times these things are done scripted at scale. So there'll be 1,000 packages, each with, kind of words from the dictionary chosen. They're all gone, and then like it there's really no notification out. That could be a problem if you're mirroring or if, you know,
Mhm.
whatever. So maybe we do need to think about how to, you know, at least have a.
It would be a good idea to carve out a different practice,
Mhm.
because I think there's a bit of a mythology that everyone is just grabbing the latest in their CI/CD pipeline multiple times a day to go push to prod, but that actually isn't how things really work in a lot of places.
Mhm.
And so you don't necessarily want people stuck in this position where they have malicious packages that have fallen down the memory hole with no notification.
Yeah. That's a good point. Amir, we could use the security reviews kind of vehicle for this. I know we've done this in the past where we published a bunch of, you know, now no longer existing packages that were known to contain, you know, malware of some sort.
I would even go so far as to suggest that a package URL for a malicious package be published.
Yeah, but we do
Even if
publish
that-
those in the security reviews.
Right. And even if the package URL doesn't lead to anything anymore, people use those as identifiers. So that would be extremely helpful.
Yeah. Cool. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't do that. Dan?
Sorry, possibly uninformed question. I know there is no such thing as stupid questions, but it might be uninformed questions still. You mentioned in your description of this system that it's periodically going through and evaluating projects based on some rules, which I guess are part of the queries part of your box here.
Yep.
And where are those rules defined? Are they defined in a common format? Is that something that could be like a common resource, which
So
yeah, you know, what are the criteria? I'm just trying to think like when I compare that to the criticality score, for instance, which I know is a totally different thing, like that's a published metric. What are the kind of things that we're looking for here, and you know, can that be a common resource that we're all inputting into, or that we all have visibility on?
In some ways it's an AV game. So while part of me says it's better for it all to be public so that we can all build off it and make it better, another part says if you specify the exact rules of what we're looking for, it'll be easier for folks to avoid that. And then it's just cat and mouse from then on out. I mean, having a closer circle of more trusted entities that those rules are shared is also interesting, but doesn't fit super well with the openness that OpenSSF is, you know, is behind. So I don't know if that would work either. We should think about how to share those rules. A lot of them are going to be a lot less interesting than you might think, but they do tend to find stuff.
I have a question as well. Some of what we are looking at has to do with multi-library malware. So, you know, you have one package, which is a dropper. You have something else that does something else. You have a configuration of malware between 4 and 7 libraries kind of in real time.
Mhm.
Are you thinking at all? I mean, it's there's plenty of naughty single libraries out there to find and to remove, right? So there is lots of low-hanging fruit. I guess, is there any thinking, and it's so early, but are you thinking at all about the sort of relationship between malicious packages that are part of more coordinated attack?
I guess the way that I would, so we could spend the next few years
right.
cleaning the pool, you know, with a filter. But I think for things like that, at some point you get sophisticated enough where whatever tools we build are not going to find it. you know, but for the ones that are, I guess, more complicated than just the very basic stuff that we see, but not yet, you know, like actually exploiting, you know, next gen kind of stuff. Running like installing and trying to use the package in some sort of a detonation chamber and watching to see what happens. So, oh, you know, you've installed npm foo and it downloads a thing, and all of a sudden you have new processes running. Like, that's weird. Without ascribing that to malware, you can just say it's weird. Someone should look at it, and it becomes an incident.
Yeah.
So that's how I would think about doing it, but
Yeah.
you know, that might be a little bit naive and state of the art, but
Yeah.
maybe not. Randall?
Just to let you know, OpenSSF is organizing their own incident response team. We met yesterday. I think you can talk to Vicky if you want to talk to them about it.
Perfect.
But going to JC's first question, if this were to be used by OpenSSF and our response team, we are, I think you could almost say that we've already established guidelines on how it would be reported and like what procedure that would take. So yeah, just
nice. That I would love to not have to.
I can send in the chat the skeleton for the process of engagements, which is what we're working on right now.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I missed. Yeah, I thought it was 6. I think it was 6 a.m. I thought it was 9. It was whatever. Time zones are hard. Yeah, I'll join next time and
Yeah, absolutely. But that's basically what kind of like outlines how it kind of is going to happen and how it's supposed to more or less work.
Terrific.
So, yeah, that should give you guys an idea.
Love it.
And also, Michael, because this also ties into our incident response over there. If you do want to try to present to the Gen 2 security team, you can. They're kind of a storied security team that has a lot of important people, important Linux developers. But I have to say, you should be prepared because even the fact that you're from Microsoft, you will have questions.
I'm used to it. It is all good. I mean, I think.
But I think it would be a good perspective because they are very resilient and a lot of times they do a lot of great things. Like you have a lot of really famous people. Like the guy that I kind of mentor around is Jason Donafield from WireGuard, the guy that created WireGuard.
Yeah.
You know,
no,
so
that's awesome.
Yeah, we work together a lot. So,
yeah.
But stuff like that, I think would be a good time.
I think that would be awesome. I would, yeah, I'd be very happy to do that, and really actually just to learn from the Gen 2 perspective, you know, kind of representing like a big slice of the Linux-ish, like non npm NuGet Ruby Gems PyPies of the world, how something like this correlates over there. Like are they, because we hear about compromised packages in npm and PyPy all the time. Are we just not hearing about it on the Linux package side, or is it actually not happening very often?
What actually normally happens, at least from a Gen 2, it really depends on how you look at it, right? Because for example, there's a large group of people that think that Debian is the worst because Debian will go out and modify packages if they feel like there are security issues or it doesn't agree with their Debian-ness. They will go ahead and, you know, modify things. So definitely it's one of those things. But yeah, like I would definitely say that it really depends on who you look at, you know, because then you have like Arch that'll just upstream everything, including the security issues, because that's your problem, not theirs, you know. And then you have Gen 2 that kind of, it really walks this fine line. The real cool thing about Gen 2 and why we use it for a lot of security stuff and kind of the security distro is because we can patch things because we build all the packages from source. We're the only distro that does that. So you can patch things on the fly. Like if you go to NEPR on GitHub and you just add .patch, you can get the patch version and then just drop it in your patches folder and then recompile your package and it's patched. So they had like Portage is a very powerful tool in this regard. And we also have package core because there's obviously we couldn't ever agree on one package manager, so we have 3.
Good. Well, at least it's only 3 and not 30.
Yeah, but it really depends. And like Red Hat also does a very good job of taking care of a lot of stuff upstream with their security team. We work with them a lot. And yeah, but it really depends on like where you are in the argument, really.
Right.
Which is, I guess, one of the things that you should be aware of also, because I think a lot of people do depend on their package managers to keep them safe, even though we tell them not to. Like, I also lead the homebrew team. I'm not just in Gen 2, but I'm also in homebrew. And like at homebrew, we repeat all the time that homebrew is not a security system. We're literally supposed to be your last line of defense.
Yeah,
People
but
don't get that.
yeah, but the thing is, between homebrew and the other one that
Gen 2 or
I don't know. Well, on the window, the chocolatey Winget, like all these ones that it's just it's a really easy way of installing a package that you know nothing about.
Right.
Right.
And not only that, people use it. I've seen them use it as a search engine. I've seen them.
Why wouldn't you? Yeah, it's so in that scenario, I could see monitoring like the homebrew was a specs or ports list or whatever, and if a thing changes.
And for the record, homebrew's under your tutelage technically, because technically it's run by GitHub now. So
nice. I didn't know that. That's
technically
really cool.
it's a GitHub project. So yeah,
cool. That works.
I know VS Code has it integrated as like their thing.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I didn't want to take up the whole meeting with this. Any last comments? I think what I'll probably do is I will definitely reach out to Vicky, take a look at the doc that you sent, Randall, and we'll kind of keep socializing it. Certainly if we can just be the front end and leverage an existing response, process, that's even better, and all that, and we'll make it all happen. So more to come.
Hey, Michael, is your deck going to be available? I'd like to chew on it a little bit more.
It is linked in the meeting notes. Please don't share broadly. I mean, obviously this meeting is being recorded, so if you're seeing it, like you're welcome to look at it, but don't treat it as like officially signed off or like a plan or anything. It's just thoughts in a slide deck form.
Yeah, I just want to think about it some more.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Cool. Terrific. Let's see, where are we now? So do we want to talk about, I had one other thing that I wanted to chat, and this isn't a demo or anything, but I had the thought of like, so part of what I and some others on my team do is we do security reviews of open source. So we'll crack open a package, we'll look through it, we'll see what we think, and we'll either find vulnerabilities or not. Sometimes we'll write up a formal review. Sometimes we'll make that review public. But the actual process that we use to do that review, we kind of realize is this it's this magical thing that we've like each built up independently over time. It's not super structured. It's not super methodical. But we do tend to, focus on different things, and perhaps doing like a video recording kind of narration, stream of consciousness of someone looking through a project and like, what are you looking for? Oh, this is a magic string. This looks weird. Why do they have this here? Like that kind of thing. And then running tools and triaging results and stuff might be just interesting and educational, instructive, kind of knowledge sharing among the community. So we're going to think about just doing a couple of these just to try it out and get feedback and stuff, but wanted to just throw that out there in case anyone else would be interested in doing one of these. I mean, I think
I would.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. I'd love to participate.
Yeah.
Would it potentially even be something like almost like a work group meeting type thing that we would just record? And
we could totally do that. I think it came up on there's a Twitter thread on it, and the question of like, oh, could you just do it on Twitch and live stream it? I don't really feel comfortable live streaming it because if we find something, now it's too late. So we'll record it, and then if we find issues, then we will get them resolved and then we will publish it. If we don't find anything, then we can just publish immediately, but
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, I'm doing a group look at it would be great too.
I'm interested as well, Michael.
Awesome. I'll add you guys in.
Michael, this has been an hour. Please add me to this as well. I mean, I'm also very interested. Thanks.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, Manara would be a good person to have for this session. Yeah.
I'd like to be on the CC on it. I don't think I would be the right person, but I might be able to find somebody who could be the right person.
That's terrific. Thank you. And we could try it, do it a couple times, and if it flops, then it flops, and no harm, no foul. Okay, so project updates. We have about 20 minutes left. So Marta, are you still here? What did you drop? No. Okay, so Marta gave let's see, first session postponed to September. Only 3 people confirmed as experts. So a new planning questionnaire really soon. So please fill out the questionnaire. This is just to level set everybody. This is to run a office hours, I think once a month or twice a month, to invite open source maintainers to come and ask questions and get like, actual help with anything related to security that they have. So it's kind of the stopgap of, maintainers don't do X because they don't know how, or they have questions, they can't get good help, or whatever objection they have. We want to get rid of that objection and just come to office hours and ask us, and we'll help you right there. So in order to do that, we need folks to be able to be at those office hours to help. So once that questionnaire for timing goes out for Marta, we'll amplify that in the general Slack channel and whatnot, and try to get some folks signed up. It'll probably be, I think what you'd be signing up for is like 2 or 3, hour-long sessions over the next couple of months. Security insight. I think Luigi said he can't be here today. Security reviews. Anything new from your end on that, Amir?
No, nothing new. I do have a quick session with Dylan planned after our meeting to take care of that thing we spoke at the last work group meeting, the select 2, and just kind of cleaning up the repo a little bit. But besides that, no significant updates.
Okay. I did have something on security insights, actually. So a question came up about, this is OneFuzz or OSS Fuzz, but there was a request to add support into Scorecard to detect that fuzzing occurs when you have this kind of, a dot file that I think it's .onefuzz or .oss fuzz in the root of a repo. And the comment that I had was like, hey, can we just like include this in the security insights YAML spec, so that way you don't have more dot files floating all around, which got me to has Scorecard agreed to pick up to read security insights YAML files, or read a kind of a chicken and the egg problem on who goes first. So I'll pick that up with Luigi next time, but that was the only update I had for security insights. So is cool. And metrics, a bunch of folks from metrics. Any update you'd like to give?
Yeah, I know from the last meeting, we had sort of tabled and we wanted to discuss in this meeting what sort of like would be the next steps for that. And I know Vinod's on the line. I don't know if Jay was able to join.
Yes.
Discussion was basically to kind of like talk through a decision on what the direction of the project, if the direction of the project originally started with is still the one to go, or is there a different decision being made? For example, LFX tools. That's what we wanted to discuss during this meeting.
Thanks, Christian. Yeah, sorry, I was late and I missed the last couple of meetings also. Yeah, so yeah, Michael, this is a situation, right? Like we are a bit confused with the mobilization plans and all the things, and we feel like we don't know what exactly we need to do. Is everything suddenly changed? Yeah, we need a clarity on that one, right? Yeah.
Okay. So the thing that I don't think I can help with is the question, is OpenSSF strategically behind LFX being the metrics dashboard of the future? And is any work that we do outside of that, like by definition, throwaway work because strategically we're all going to be, LFX is the way forward? And I would say, like, without getting clarity on that, like, we have to take a risk of like, are we, and I honestly, I don't think that question has been answered. So I don't think it's an answer that someone has. We just need to ask them about it.
Yeah.
I would say there's probably more value in getting something useful sooner rather than later. If LFX were chosen as the platform now, it would probably be a year before, that dashboard would be publicly available and whatnot, because it's such an architectural, from my understanding, as opposed to something like just use deps.dev, or just get the current metrics dashboard refreshing daily, or something else that's got a much lower lift.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point what you mentioned, right? The current form of LFS metrics is not suitable replacement for the metrics dashboard we have. I mean, this is something when we evaluate before, we just didn't just evaluate LFS, we look for deps.dev and other platforms available, similar platforms. So yeah, that's why we have this confusion, like, do we what we need to do, maybe like as you mentioned, irrespective of what is the strategic thing, maybe we just make a, we were thinking different persona or use cases, or how consumer of metrics.dev, metrics.openssf.org will be expecting. So we were thinking from a consumer or end users perspective, not necessarily from a org perspective, like how we will need to transfer this to one to another, but not considering who is the actual end user of this data and how they are going to benefit from it, right? Like if it is a restricted data for a limited maintainers, it may be benefit for a different use case, but that's not what metrics.openssf is currently offering. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I did ping some folks to try to get connected with the deps.dev team at Google to see if we could, think about, everything from code developing to just kind of partnering on making that platform, extending the deps.dev platform to include, additional ecosystems. Right now, it does not do GitHub or NuGet. GitHub's probably the bigger one, but it also doesn't include things like the raw details of the best practice badge and things like that. So, maybe there's an opportunity there just to add incrementally into that platform, and then that platform is the platform, and then
Yeah, we were discussing along the same line, right? Like we may not have a perfect platform at this point, but at least we can check with their plans and or influence them to have similar capabilities so that the consumers of metrics won't be unhappy, right? Like, but I think one of the major data is a scorecard, and one of the additional data is available is vulnerability in the metrics. Sorry, deps.dev, right? Like, so there are interesting data, and we were also considering what other potential data will be useful for different personas, right? Like maybe a developer, a security person, different kind of use cases and scenarios. But yeah, I think it's good to hear that you already contacted and made some progress. Maybe we can restart then, like as you mentioned, like maybe we can continue with that approach. Yeah, and yeah, if something change in future, maybe we will change the banner or redirection or whatever it is. Like I think, in my opinion, it may be a redirection from current or showing a banner or use like but one of my main concern was like a depths.dev also not offering REST API at this point of time. I heard they are planning to offer REST API, but I don't know
Yeah.
when and things
So-
like that.
So they have an unofficial REST API. So the actual page is just a shell of a page, and then it does Ajax-y stuff behind to grab the stuff. You can call those Ajax endpoints yourself. And it comes back, it's structured, it has all the scorecard data in it. So I think the other idea that we were thinking about was actually to take the current metrics out of OpenSSF.org, Grafana and all that, and basically blow that all up and just have a page that you have, pick a library and you're like npm left pad, and then it goes out and it's stateless and it goes out to deps.dev and the badge, and I think it could probably do criticality score as well just by querying Bigtable.
Yeah.
Bring all that together and showing you a similar page, but now it's all dynamic. There's no back end database.
I would also hasten to add, because we've been doing the same sorts of things for 6 years, is that you have to be very careful about what you claim a scoring system is actually doing, and how fresh its information is, and how stateful its information is. So for instance, like on Ion Channel, it's all trending longitudinally, like month over month. And so it's really good. It's better than nothing to have a snapshot. But what we have seen in our data science is that that can create a huge amounts of false comfort. So I think that part of the scoring, I guess the legend to the map, right, has to really be a very clear accounting of what this is and isn't, and what you can know and not know. Because I think people we have seen people who are not using longitudinal stateful data look at things and feel like it's really safe when the data in the snapshot is misleading, not intentionally, but there's a huge amount of senescence and degradation of support that is not obvious when some of these scores are calculated.
Yeah, I think it's also important to give more transparent information, especially when the score was calculated, all the details. I mean, yeah, I think a version of the score, the tool itself, like when the score was calculated, there are so many information which need to be there, which can impact the score itself, right? Like even in many current system, like the scores are primarily checked based on the master branch or main branch. It's not clearly mapping with the tagging with which version, which branch, and those kind of things. Like it can be a bit complicated, right? I think it's important to provide that information to the user or in the API at least, so that consumers can take that data and make appropriate decision, right? But I don't think it is going to be very difficult to do real-time calculation for everything in this large scale, like millions of packages and a repository. So you will have to do this asynchronously and just highlight the time and date when you calculate all these things.
I think that maybe what we're talking about is the light version and the full version. Whereas the light version is just a visualization on existing data sources, and we can be transparent with like when, at least when we refresh it from them and when they claim to refresh it from, you know, first principles. But then there's the trending and, you know, more complex analysis where you combine multiple signals and you come up with your own opinions on what constitutes, you know, the bar that you expect or hope for. And I think when we started this project, originally we were thinking the full version, and that's kind of why we started building it out in terms of a, you know, real, you know, data repository. That's a product and needs a product team to drive. And
yes,
you know,
that's what we keep on pointing out to
I
people
know.
when they hold up OpenSSF. We're like, okay, so who's paying the cloud bill for
Right.
all that compute?
Mhm.
And you know, yeah, you're right, it's a product, and I think it's very important to make that differentiation. But there is a lot of good that you can do, right, on a very light basic level.
Yep. So and it perhaps going down the path of a stateless, it's just some magic Ajax stuff, paints us into the corner where there's no way to get from that to a full version. But we can provide value sooner with that. And maybe it's both. That's a, you know.
Michael, I think there is a risk of using unofficial APIs because there can be rate limit issues, SLAs, and all those things if you haven't, you know, communicated in the upfront with the team, right? Like, I mean, they mainly expose that API for their domain, their Ajax, you know, calls, or yeah.
Yep.
So I hope that they're planning to make a public API. I don't know when that is going to happen, and when the remaining ecosystem will get added. And there are so many questions, but we just pause everything because, you know, when we read the mobilization plan, we all were confused, like, so we don't know what to do. So we discussed.
One thing that would be amazingly useful for something like that to do is actually to start to get to some of that criticality. Because the dynamic information about all of those risk factors, you know, it gets very producty, but being able to understand, especially in the context of threat, right, which is the beginning of this conversation, the criticality of any given package as a lookup would be very useful.
Yep. And there's another project that I forgot who's driving it. Someone at OpenSSF is driving a project to basically do expert opinions on what criticality means to you as a qualitative data point, in addition to the criticality score and the more objective metrics. And maybe, you know, as this project moves forward in whatever way it does, combining those things in a way that makes sense, where you can say, you know, for this, you know, if, logging frameworks for Java, be like, here are the top 3 most critical things by score and by like expert, you know, checks, or, you know, hot tamales or something.
And that's where experts can really play a role, right? So every one of us could probably turn, you know, our hat around and say, well, if I were an attacker and looking for something juicy, I would want to get to something like fill in the blank, and we can all probably pull together a list of what that is. And I think those would probably be the top things we'd want to look at.
Yep, makes sense.
It is, to be honest, it's a complicated problem. That's why threat modelers get paid a lot of money, right? Like, if it is an easy problem, we all could secure every projects, every companies very easily, right? Like, yeah.
Cool. We have about 3 minutes left for this meeting. Is there anything else anyone would like to talk about?
So just want to summarize, Michael, what you're saying is like, let's continue with the, you know, or let resume what we were doing and make decision from the. I'm not sure if are we formally a SIG yet, Christine? Do we?
We were waiting. We were moving in that direction until kind of like decided to pause.
Okay, so that means we can officially create a SIG, if I'm not wrong, Michael, then continue with what we are doing and then make a decision instead of sitting there and waiting for the mobilization plans, right? Like,
I'm sorry, I actually don't know what the why you would need to be a SIG. I'm just ignorant on this. Like, what does being a SIG open up for you that you don't have?
no,
now?
I think we want to be more open and transparent what we are doing. I mean, I was just using my Google Hangout and my Google Calendar invite for last I don't know how many months we.
Oh no. So okay, yeah. So no. So my understanding is that you would need to be a SIG when you are soliciting like funds independently and outside of OpenSSF. You can just be a project and you can get funded just by asking TAC for funds to do X, and they say yep, and then you've got funds available. You can have Jory or other folks from OpenSSF set up meetings on the OpenSSF Zoom. Same as any other project. I don't think there's any. I don't think you need to be a SIG for anything.
No, yeah, that's fine. It's just a mistake in the terminology, right? Like, yeah. So it's more about being more transparent and
Official,
inviting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
One last question, Alex. I'm sorry that I was late. Is there any participation on KubeCon, upcoming KubeCon?
I'm not. I don't know if anybody else is.
All right. I think there's a SIG store stuff going on there. Might be interesting, but I was wondering. Okay.
I would say probably so some of the other working groups, I'm sure, are closer aligned to SIG store. I would imagine that they would be all over that.
Thank you.
Yeah. You could, if you're interested, just post something in the general channel on Slack, and I'm sure folks would jump on it.
Got it. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you all very much for your time and attention and thoughts and opinions and everything else. I really appreciate it. And we will please fill out the doodle, and then I will see some of you, hopefully most of you, in 2 weeks at the next session. So thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Amir.